Hi everyone, I'm here with Scott Rechtschaffen, who is Chief Knowledge Officer at Littler. Hi Scott.
Hi Carolyn, how are you?
I am very good. You looking forward to Legal Week?
I am. It's always a fun and busy week.
Can we predict what the big announcements are going to be about?
Oh yes, gee, I wonder.
I love chatting with you, and as a firm, you've been doing some innovative things for a long time. You've been working with AI for a long time. I'm going to come on to Gen AI specifically, but what do you make of, do you think sort of people are trying to make lots of announcements around what they're doing with AI? I think there's a little bit of catch up going on in the market.
Quite a bit. We are an employment law firm.
Yeah.
So we've been looking at the impact of AI on the workplace for forever. I mean, we launched a robotics, AI, and automation practice group in 2013 and started advising employers about the impact of robotics in terms of changing jobs, eliminating jobs, all sorts of things. I'll come back to that in a minute. The second thing we did was we launched an initiative in the area of workforce transformation. And we launched something called the Emma Coalition, which doesn't stand for anything. Emma is actually the name of one of my partner's granddaughters, who's, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And he's very concerned about what the world of work will look like when she enters it. And he started working with legislators at the state level and at the federal level to start focusing on how do we train and upskill our workforce to meet the coming demand, what the world will look like in 20 years. So that was a very, very interesting development. The other thing we focused on was predictive AI and how that was being used more and more in HR decision making. And one of my partners testified before Congress on the subject and before the EEOC. And, so and some of my colleagues have written extensive law review and other articles examining the impact of predictive AI and the potential for discrimination, the potential for bias in using these sorts of tools. And we find in some organizations, you've got different parts of the organization, different business units that are going off and they're using these tools and they're not consulting with legal or they're not consulting with HR. And it's become a real, before they know it, all of a sudden, they've got problems. So we've been looking at this area for a long, long time.
Yeah. I've seen it's interesting. I've seen amongst law firms, some recent announcements of AI groups. It made me think of you because I know you've had these kind of groups for a long time for all the reasons that you've just said. I think obviously there is a massive leap forward, with recent developments over the past year with generative AI. As somebody who has been working with AI for a long time, who understands the need to, there's so many things that I think are not happening, in terms of really measuring what it is that you're, analyzing what it is you need, what the problem is, all of the first principles. There's all this. I think this is sort of a very rash approach, and from vendors in particular. I think that there's for me as a journalist, there's a lot of announcements that don't seem to be substantive still. Right, we had last year where we were like, yeah, that's going to be quite fluffy, and even this year I think it's still a bit fluffy. From a buyer perspective, I'd be really curious to know your thoughts in terms of how you're perceiving the most recent vendor announcements, and perhaps what would be the most helpful. What are you hoping at Legal Week or elsewhere to sort of hear from vendors?
Yeah, well, I'm very interested in what's going to happen next week, because I remember the last Legal Week, which I think took place in March. And I walked around the exhibit hall and virtually every vendor said, oh yeah, we're working with OpenAI. Oh yeah, we're building AI into our products. And I talked to some of them. I said, really, you're working with OpenAI? Well, no, we're using their API to use the large language model. And they would sort of back off when pressed. And then we got the flurry of announcements from some of the major vendors saying, we're going full speed ahead. And then that has reached, we haven't reached the crescendo yet, but it is clearly accelerated, and I'm dying to see what's going to happen next week.
By the time people listen to this, it will be this week. But so I think
okay, I'm sorry, this week.
Yeah, no, don't be.
Okay.
Hot off the press.
Yeah. It's frustrating because we get these big announcements and we get invited to meetings and demos, and a lot of the things look very cool. I've seen some fabulous products. I'm particularly interested in those products that focus on one thing rather than the products that try and be the Swiss Army knife of AI. And I mean, I'm very impressed with CoCounsel. I'm very impressed with Vincent by VLEX. In particular, VLEX, they're focusing on legal research. I think when my attorneys look at that, they're going to say, I know what that is. Yeah. You don't have to train me. I can figure this out. I looked at another product and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to require months and months of evangelizing and training, because it requires us to get attorneys to completely change the way they work, as opposed to supplementing or making certain tasks more efficient. We will get greater adoption. In fact, I'm talking on this subject, I'll say on Tuesday, because I really think that's something law firms have to focus on before they start spending all of this money on these types of tools. Now, there's certain tools that we'll incorporate into our back office operations and our firm management, and a limited number of people who need to know how to actually use the tools. But when we start talking about attorney-facing tools, we have to take into account what it's going to take to get the lawyers to adopt them, and the effort and the resources. We had a meeting of our internal AI governance group, and we were talking about, well, we're going to have trainers. We're going to have people auditing the output. We're going to have, and I sat there and I said, wow, all this talk about AI replacing jobs and eliminating jobs, that's out the window. We're going to need to hire a lot more people to do this right. So that's something that I think the onus is on the law firms to really think about and prepare for. On the vendor side, when you start pushing on issues like data privacy, data security, are you using our data to train the model? Are you, show us your security measures? That's when they sort of, you can see them sort of sit up and say, let me get my engineer in here. Let me get my, so-and-so in here. They need to be more transparent about how they're using our data.
Okay.
The other issue is on the regulators and the courts. Because first of all, we have all of these judges who are issuing standing orders. I just saw another one came out today. I'm sorry, it came out last week.
I'm not sure. Do you know what? You made me think that maybe we should publish this before Legal Week. Because then, you know what? This is great, because this is like a great prelude to what you're going to be talking about. Let's be we're a bit free with when you're going to be listening.
Okay. So, we have individual judges issuing standing orders, and they're really not thinking through what they're ordering. We need, at least at the district level or at higher levels, to start having universal orders so we don't have disparities. Similarly, Florida came out with some ethics opinions. California, I don't know if they released it, but they're working on it. And there again, we're going to have differing things. The other element is the clients. We are getting, information requests and all sorts of letters from our clients. Some are saying, absolutely, do not use any generative AI whatsoever in doing our work. On the other extreme, we have clients saying, what are you doing about this? Are you going to use generative AI? And in fact, I heard one client say, if by the end of the year you're not using generative AI on our work, we're switching law firms. So it's all over the place.
And not at the same time.
And interestingly, the prohibitive messages we're getting, they're not thinking it through. Does that mean I cannot use traditional Westlaw and Lexis with natural language search, which is a form of AI? How about when I respond to an email on my phone and it suggests the next word in the sentence? That's AI. Or
Yeah.
Outlook, when it suggests a reply, that's AI. How about relativity? How about all the other tools we're using that have elements of AI in them for some time? Really? We can't use those?
It's like the early days of the cloud, isn't it? You know, I think this is exactly where we're at. So I think it's, you know, you had clients saying you must never use the cloud, right? And now it sounds ridiculous.
Right.
You know, we're all, and even at that time, you know, it's the same as you were saying, Scott. Like at the time when they were saying that firms couldn't use the cloud, they would all be in Mimecast, right? And you know, they would be using they would have all their emails.
Well, you know,
He was like really thinking through that.
it always astounded me that clients actually thought law firm security was better than AWS.
Right, someone you've got something in the basement, which is really good, and you didn't even have to have a badge to get down. No, I think that, I mean, the client thing is just fascinating. I don't know why I said unbelievable when you said that. They said unless you're using Gen AI by the end of the year we'll switch. I mean, I do think that's an unbelievable approach. I think that is really extreme, because like you said, do you need to be using it? That's like saying, you know, you need to drive, I don't know, unless you're driving a Bentley by the end of the year, when actually all you need to do is cross the road, or, you know, it depends on what the journey is. That's incredible that they would specify we have to use that type of technology. That's so helpful, so much to think about. Hopefully this week, you know, there'll be some measured announcements, you know, that I think will take into account. I'll try and sort of do a summary for this, and I think maybe we will publish it ahead of Legal Week, but I'm sure people will be listening during and past, because it's really helpful. I wanted to flag before we finish up something separate. So I have been a failure and I wanted to flag with everybody that you do the most fabulous course at Cornell Tech. You've got me in on a couple of occasions and I meant to write about it. I've judged loosely because they don't really need judging and it's more of a participation type thing. Your students who have presented, I've seen twice now, them present their ideas in terms of you get them to present. They're not necessarily startups, are they? They're legal technology companies. Do they have like is it not startup, but what's
it could be startups. So broad overview of the class. I came into this about 6-7 years ago through Cornell Law School, and it's at Cornell Tech, which is on Roosevelt Island in New York. It's an amazing place. It's a graduate program where they bring in students from all sorts of disciplines, from engineering, from design, from business, from law, and have them work on teams on projects. But they also take classes. And the class I do is called Delivering Legal Services Through Technology. And we started it about 7 years ago, partnering with Cornell Tech and with Neotologic. So over the course of the semester, the students learn how to use Neotologic, and we put them on teams so that their final exam is to build an application for a legal service organization, a pro bono organization that they've been working with. So that's sort of the big project. In the meantime, I bring in wonderful guest lecturers like you. Osman Amram has taught, Michael Mills, his name. He's taught all sorts of people in the knowledge management and IT community come in and share their thoughts. One of the interim projects we do is I give the students, you know, those diagrams you see with the logos of all the legal tech companies. So I give them those and I say, pick a company, any company. And don't be limited by my list. Go out and find a legal tech company and then study it. Research it. What are they trying to accomplish? What's their market? Are they disruptive or are they sustainable? Who are the founders? And they write a report and then they present to the class. And it's fascinating the variety. I mean, I've had students pick companies that are no longer around. and like Ross Intelligence or ClearSpire and talk about what happens.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. The other really interesting thing is the students in the class are either JD students, and we do have some students at Cornell and Ithaca who zoom in, or they're LLM students. In the past couple of years, we've actually gotten some computer science students who want to take the class, which
What
is,
do you make of that? I mean, that's brilliant for the sector.
it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
They come in, just like all the investors out there, they see a poorly rationalized industry and say, this looks interesting. We've also had an uptick in the number of law students with computer science backgrounds.
Brilliant.
So the quality of the work has just gotten better and better over the years, and it's a lot of fun.
They are so great, and they all did great presentations. They're, some is always like that really leapt out, and you challenge them, don't you? And it's great that they're thinking about tech from the outset, right? Like, I mean, things are moving on. I personally don't think fast enough. When I haven't researched education. I mean, it moves, right? So, and I haven't done a piece on education for a while, and I know things have got better, but I do think that tech, given that it underpins everything, I think these types of classes are so important, and it's great that you get them thinking critically, right? And also you challenge them. You don't just listen to their presentation and then that's it. You actually say, so why is it disruptive? So it's great that they're turning on their grey cells, right? They're not just presenting something and then they sit down.
One of the best classes we do every year is called So You Want to Start a Legal Tech Company. And I bring in Scott Mazarski, who is perfect for this because he's funded and acquired and sold so many legal tech companies. And then he brings in, or we bring in, some people who are in their first, second, third year as a startup. We've brought in some graduates from our class who are now doing legal tech startups. And it's just a great discussion of how do you get financing. The one question I get from the students every year is, I want to get into legal technology. Should I go into it or should I go practice law first?
What do you advise? I know what I would advise.
I advise go practice law first.
I would advise that.
Go find out where the problems are, where the inefficiencies are. I've seen too many people who practice for 1 year and they think, oh, I know exactly what to do. And some succeed, but some struggle. I think you really need to, not only learn where the problems are, but also, develop contacts in the industry and get sort of a bigger picture of the industry before you try and solve its problems.
I certainly like the advice when I was younger, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for a job, and I'd done a law degree. So I said to my dad, I think I'm going to go and teach law. And he went, what are you going to teach? I've done a law degree. He was quite abrupt. He went, you have no idea about practicing law. And I said, yeah, I've got a degree. He went, just go and practice, right? And it's the same. And actually, I can see, hopefully, careers. I'm now doing a careers insight piece where we track different careers. It's fascinating, and more and more of these are opening up. More will open up with Gen AI, and I can see them going backwards and forwards, right? So you practice, then you go to a startup, then you go back to a law firm, and then you leverage I think we need those really well-rounded roles.
That absolutely. That's another class that we teach periodically is alternative jobs or careers within law firms. I mean, we totaled it up a year or two ago. I think there's somewhere about 150 attorneys in my firm who are not doing traditional legal practice. They're doing e-discovery. They're doing data security. They're on my knowledge management team. They're in compliance. They're in all sorts of different roles other than just the hourly or flat fee practice of law. And they're making a really valuable contribution to the firm and to our clients.
Yeah, so interesting. I think that's just going to happen more and more, right? That we're going to have all of these roles. I could talk to you forever, and often do. It's also great to chat to you. I hope you have a great conference. and thank you, and let's speak again. And I'd love to invite myself to your next Cornell Tech class as well.
Oh, you have a standing invitation, and I'm sorry we'll miss you this week, but hopefully I'll see you at ILTA, wherever that might be this year. I don't even know.
I've got lots of plans.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, thank you so much.
All right, Carolyn, good talking with you. Bye.
You too. Bye.